Once again, my name is Crystal. I'm with Aveta's training team, and this is Aveta Connect for client admins. Okay, before we jump into today's demonstration, I want to first just give a brief overview on Aveta, what we do as an organization. So this is a quick introduction of Aveta from 30,000 feet above, if you will. Aveta is more than just software. We're more than connecting information. We connect people and companies. And through our contractor management services and pre-qualification services, we've built up an extensive network of pre-vetted supply chain partners to match your needs. Now you, as the client, rely on supply chain partners to perform jobs and provide materials because it makes business sense. And since these contractors are an extension of your company, ensuring that they're held to the same rigorous safety and sustainability standards is not only important for managing risk, but also for protecting your brand. Now, Aveta, what we do is we take care of the entire contractor qualification process. Our professional compliance specialists do all of the heavy lifting of engaging with your contractors and collecting the information needed. Now, once that information is collected, it's then verified and contractors are measured by your requirements through our configurable online platform. So what I would like for everyone on the line to do is to think of Aveta as one big awesome umbrella with a few different platforms underneath it. And today we are going to focus on Connect. Connect is the platform that vets a contractor company as a whole. When we do dive into the system, there's a few agenda topics that we'll be focusing on today. Number one, basic navigation. I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable and confident with getting around in the system. We'll then be focusing majority of our time on the network menu. And within the network menu, this is where you can go to manage your suppliers, looking at their compliance status, what's keeping them from becoming compliant. It's also where you can source suppliers, whether they're a part of Aveta's network and pre-qualified, or they're brand new and they're not a part of the network yet. We'll also touch on variances. Now, a variance, and we'll dive way deeper into this in a moment, a variance is like an override of a compliance status. So if a supplier is red, but you really need them to come on site and do work for a temporary amount of time, you could override that compliance status to a forced green to allow for them to come and do work. Again, this is all by the discretion of your company and the standards and procedures that you want to take place within your internal company. We will then touch on the user profile. Now, this isn't just the place where you could update your personal information, maybe adding a profile picture. This is also where you can go to subscribe to email notifications. So, if you would like to receive emails notifying you when your supplier insurance is about to expire, or perhaps their connection status has changed, I'll show you where to go to do that. And the beauty about subscribing to email notifications is not to flood your inbox. You actually have the ability to determine if you would like to receive emails for all of your suppliers or only those suppliers on your watch list. I'll let you know what a watch list is in just a minute also. Last but not least, if you love today's training, but let's say you come to your station next week and 40% of the information fell out of your left ear, totally fine. I will show you where to go to get all of the training support that you need to excel inside of Aveta Connect. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the system. All right, and here we are. So in today's demonstration, I'm actually logged into the training environment, meaning that all of the data that we're going to be seeing today is fictitious. We're not going to be seeing any proprietary data. We're also using a demo account, so this isn't a real client. And sometimes, and I will say sometimes, there are some functionalities that don't always work as they should in the production environment. So What I mean by that is that if I want to go and show you something in the training environment and it's not working as it should in the production environment, you might hear me say something like, in the real world. So when I say that, that just means in the production environment, it operates this way. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Before we jump into the meat and potatoes of what you see on your screen here, let's take a step back. All right, let's look at the bare bone interface of the system and how you get around in that system. Okay, so taking a step back and looking at the bare bones of the interface and how to get around the system. In your top right hand corner, you're going to have one, if not two, icons up here. The first one in the far right is your profile avatar. This is going to have your initials, but if you've added a profile picture, you'll see your profile picture here as well. This is where you can access the logout, my profile, switch account, and at the very bottom, this is also where you can go to verify which level of your company hierarchy you're logged into. Now, by saying that, the way that your company is set up inside of Avetta Connect could be different from the next. And so I have seen some companies where there are several different hub levels, meaning maybe there's a US hub and a UK hub, a Canada hub. Within those hubs, there could be several different client sites, okay? And those sites are specific to that region. If your company is built out in that manner, you may have a hierarchy symbol here up in the top right. So from here, I know that I'm logged in as AgriBuilder Worldwide. Inside of that, I can see all US sites, immediate corporate, Germany. And so depending on your company's hierarchy, you may need to select the specific client site to view all information that pertains specifically to that site. So as AgriBuilder Worldwide, this is awesome if I'd like to see all of the suppliers that are connected to this hub. But let's say I want a more focused view. Okay, I'm going to come up to the hierarchy and I'm going to select all US sites. This is a specific client site and it looks a little bit different. Okay, whenever you see this circle, this, they call it the connection wheel, that indicates that you are at the specific client site. Now on your left hand side, this is going to be your main menu. The main menu is going to show you where you are as indicated by the lighter shade of blue. We are going to be focusing primarily on the network menu. That's where the bulk of your work is going to be done. So to talk about your home page here, I know that I'm on my home page by the lighter shade of blue and this little green indicator. The home page is going to give you just a few different buckets of information. I can see who I'm logged in as, AgriBuilder All US Sites. I can also see the Avetta Sphere or the connection wheel or connection donut, whatever you want to call it. This is a really good visual indicator of your active connections. So you have the total of your active connections here and a visual breakdown of those connections and their compliance status. On the right hand side, we see the legend. So we have green, meaning compliant. This indicates that the supplier has completed all of their requirements. They're good to go. They got the green light to show up and do work on site. The amber colored triangle indicates that the supplier is conditionally compliant. This indicates that, well, maybe they've completed some, but not all of their requirements. And if they do show up to do work on site, perhaps they should be used with caution, or maybe there's some conditions to them doing work. The red with a slash through it, or I've heard some folks call it the Ghostbuster symbol, is an indicator that this supplier is non-compliant, and that is because they haven't completed all of their requirements, or something has fell out of compliance. The gray hollow circle, now this is subjective throughout Avetta, but primarily speaking, this indicates that the supplier is pending compliance. Perhaps you just connected to them and they have yet to complete all of those pre-qualification tasks. Now, with each of these, you get a breakdown of how many suppliers are compliant, conditional, or non-compliant. And they are also a hyperlink to auto-filter. So if you only want to see those compliant connections, you can simply click here. It'll take you to the network menu, filtered by those compliant statuses. Now, scrolling down a little bit, we have two different sections on the home page: My Tasks and Recent Connections. Okay, so My Tasks, generally speaking, this is going to list out any of the performance evaluations that have been conducted that you have not finished. Now, within Avetta Connect, there is the ability to create a performance evaluation. So if the supplier has done a great or an awful job, you can go in and rate the quality of their work. It's a 5-star scaling system, and once complete, it gives an aggregate score. If you do not complete it, let's say you want someone else to chime in and add their input inside that review, you can exit out of that and it'll just be listed right here on your My Tasks. If you are an advanced client and maybe you have some custom forms that should be accessed through the Connect platform, those will then be seen here as well. Okay. Now, the recent connections, pretty straightforward. These are the suppliers that you've recently connected to. And I know that there's far more than just 5 suppliers. We have 1,394. To view all of those suppliers, you can do that a few different ways. Number one, you can click View All Connections over here on the right-hand side. Or you can click on the Network menu, because the Network menu is where you go to view all your connections. Additionally, you can click on any one of these filters. These hyperlink filters will allow for you to pre-filter and be taken to the network menu. So let's say that I only want to see those compliant connections. I click on the compliant connections link. I can see that I'm taken to the network menu and it's filtered by compliance. Okay, so I clicked on that filter for compliance connections. I now am on the network menu where I can see that it's filtered by compliant and forced compliant. Now I'm just going to take these off for the sake of the demonstration. And before we get into the bells and whistles of what we see here on the screen, I'm going to just call out what each of these menu items up here on the top will actually do. Now, depending on your permissions within the system, you might not see everything that I'm seeing up here. Okay, so if you learn that maybe you should be seeing it, please contact your admin. My Network. All right, so My Network is where you go to view all of your active connections, meaning that all of the suppliers that you are actively connected to are going to be listed here on My Network. Find Suppliers. This is going to be where you can find all of the suppliers that are already a part of Avetta's network, meaning they're pre-qualified, but you may or may not be connected to them yet. If you've searched My Network for a specific supplier and you can't find them, and then you searched Find Suppliers for that supplier and you can't find them, perhaps they're not a part of Avetta's network. If you've sourced a supplier who is not a part of Avetta's network, but you'd like to have them become a part of the network, come here to Supplier Requests. This is where you can go to initiate that registration request. Supplier Tags, this menu is where you can create and manage all supplier tags. Now, a supplier tag is used to organize or categorize your supply chain. So I'll touch more on that as we get through in the filters, but this is where you go to create and manage those tags. Supplier Variants. Now, as I stated before, a variance is essentially an override to a compliance status. This menu is where you go to manage all of those variance requests. Okay, so again, depending on your permissions, if you have the variance management permission, you can request a variance, but only those individuals with a variance management approval permission will be able to actually push a variance through. All right, so right now we're going to focus on My Network. Now, on the left-hand side, we're going to just take a moment and go through each of these filter options here. The first one is the search field. Now, if you're looking for a specific supplier, The best way to look for them is just to type in their name or their Avetta ID. I'll show you where you can find the Avetta ID, and it's actually a really great way of searching because if the supplier has a special character, like an and% here, or if the supplier has a really long name, just entering in their Avetta ID will give you a true result. Now, the next filter here is My Watch List. As I stated before, the My Watch List is similar to My Suppliers List within Browse. And if you're working on, let's say, a big project and you're working with several different suppliers for said project, adding them to your watch list is a great way to basically create a favorites list, so that way you don't have to search for those suppliers each and every single time you want an update on their status. To add a supplier to your watch list, very straightforward. You're going to go ahead and click on this little expansion arrow here on the right, click on the vertical ellipsis below, and click Add to Watch List. This is the primary location where you add a supplier to your watch list. So by doing this, I now see this eerie eyeball icon to the right of the supplier's profile name. And when I toggle my watch list on, it shows me only those suppliers on my watch list. This is great if you have thousands of suppliers. To remove a supplier from your watch list, just as simple. Click to expand, click the vertical ellipsis, remove from watch list. And the eerie eyeball icon is gone. All right, now going on down the line for the filters, connection status. This is defaulted to show you active and pending connections, but if you wanted to see inactive or rejected for whatever reason, you can do that as well. Overall compliance status. Now, we already went over the general compliance statuses here, but if you're wondering what about these statuses with the exclamation point inside of them, those are compliance statuses that got that way by the force of a variance. Now again, a variance is an override to the compliance status. And so it is possible that a supplier is red, but you need them to come on site and do work. So you checked out their profile and you say, you know, they're actually they're good to go for a certain period of time for work. I'm going to put in a variance request. If that request is approved, it can then change that status to green, but everyone will know that it got that way by the force of a variance as indicated by the exclamation point within. Open tasks is another layer of filtering. So for instance, if I wanted to see all of those conditionally compliant suppliers with open insurance tasks, I can simply apply that additional layer of filtering. Okay, and I'm just going to remove that for the sake of the demonstration. Now, trades is the next filter here. Trades is predefined by NAICS, or the North American Industry Classification System. And as you can see, this is a pretty extensive list. So if you're looking for something specific, I would highly recommend utilizing this search field here. I'm going to type in electric, and as you can see, there's a bunch of subtopics here for electric, and you can select as many of them as you see fit for your search. Okay, and it's going to filter your list accordingly. Tags is next. Again, I already kind of referenced what a tag is. It's a means of categorizing or organizing your supply chain. And once that tag is created and applied to a supplier's profile, you can then filter by that tag, and it'll show you the results of that. Performance review between. Now, when a performance evaluation is conducted, it then generates an aggregate score. And that aggregate score you can also filter by. So if you only wanted to see those suppliers with review scores between 70 and 100, you can enter that range here, and it's going to filter your list accordingly. For the score between, a scorecard is a new feature, and it really just dives a little bit deeper into the compliance of a supplier. It gives a percentage. So let's say that you have a compliant supplier, but maybe they're missing a couple of tasks, or they haven't entered in their about verbiage.
their score is going to be a little bit lower. And so you can give that same range for the scorecard to see those suppliers. Now, on the right-hand side here, each one of these line items is a supplier, and scrolling through, you can get little nuggets of information at a glance, such as the DBA, or doing business as, right underneath the actual supplier name. And on the right-hand side, you can see the breakdown of the compliance status with the sites that they're connected to, how many trades, how many locations. If you wanted to get even more information without opening up that profile, you can click to expand the supplier details by clicking on that arrow on the right. And here you get the site connections and the details tab. Within site connections, you can see the sites in your organization that this supplier is connected to. If we were at the hub level and AJ Allen Mechanical Contractors was connected to more than one of our client sites, you would see that here along with their respective compliance status. To the right, we have the vertical ellipsis, or as I like to call it, the quick action menu. This allows for you to quickly take action on the supplier's profile without even having to open that up. So you can add a note, apply a supplier tag, assign a new form, add a review, and the primary location to add the supplier to your watch list. Now, before I jump into a supplier's profile, I want to quickly call out this send a message functionality here. With the send a message feature, this allows for you to send a message to your suppliers from within Avetta Connect. The first thing you're going to want to do is filter. So if you only want to see those conditionally compliant, or let's say forced conditional compliant. So forced conditional, I've applied my filter, and mind you, you can apply whatever filters you want to. Your result is then going to be listed here in the main portion of your screen. And then once you click on send a message, you're then taken to the send message window, where on the right hand side, you can see the recipients. Okay, so this will show you how many users this email will go to and how many accounts this pertains to. So in the body of the send message window, you can indicate who you would like this to be replied to. Okay, and if you don't want the reply, you can keep the do not reply selected. You have two required fields, the subject line and the message itself. And when you scroll down, you can actually add a file to this as an attachment. However, the file would have to be first uploaded to your resources, which is this menu item right underneath the network menu. And let me show you how that works. Once you have deemed it as viewable by supplier, you can then choose the file and send it. Now, let me show you how to upload a file to resources and to deem it as viewable by supplier. So I clicked in the resources menu. I'm going to upload a file. Let's just say okay. So if I've uploaded this file here, I can then tick the little toggle for viewable by supplier. Okay. Once this happens, when I go back to that send a message, I can now choose the file, and it shows me those files that are viewable by supplier. Okay, so now that we have gone through all of the filtering and the send a message functionality, we're going to switch gears and jump into the supplier's profile. So by clicking once on the supplier's name, I am now inside of the supplier profile. So when you access a supplier profile, notice that it defaults to the flag details here. And that's really the system saying, oh, you want to open up the supplier profile? You probably want to see what is driving the compliance status. Each one of these elements that's listed here is an individual requirement. And these were actually set up by your company to define those parameters of compliance. Okay, so also you see
respective compliance status to the left-hand side of that requirement. If you wanted to get any more information about any of these requirements, you can click once on the requirement itself, and sometimes it'll expand to show you more documentation, but it will always show you where this documentation took place within the supplier's profile. So I can click here on this header, and it takes me to that specific task where this documentation took place. All right, going back, when we're on the flag details here, I just want to call something out. The term flag that we see here on flag details and also in the force flag on the right hand side, the term flag and the term variance, slightly interchangeable, okay? So if you were to ever hear flag or variance or an override or something like that, that's really just referring to the override of a compliance, okay, the variance. Now, if you were to click on force a flag here to the right-hand side of the requirement, that's going to initiate a variance request for this individual requirement. If you were to click Add Variance up here in the top, this is going to initiate a variance for the overall compliance status. And here's the bonus and the takeaways from this. If you were to add a variance for the overall compliance status, anything else, like let's say that the TRIR fell out of compliance or the workers' comp expired or something like that, if something else fell out of compliance, you would not receive a notification because you forced the variance for the overall compliance status. Nothing's going to change that until that date range has been met. However, if you were to force the variance for the individual requirement, if anything else was to fall out of compliance, you would definitely receive a notification. So it is suggested by Avetta that for all client users, it's best practice to force the flag or the variance from the individual compliance level. So I just want to I want to just get that out and let you guys know the backstory of flags, variances, overrides, and we are going to demonstrate what that looks like. So when we're talking about variances for A&E machining and fabrication here, if I know that there's just this one requirement that is holding them up from becoming compliant, I can go ahead and initiate that variance request by clicking on Force Flag. Clicking on a Force Flag will bring me to the new variance window. Now from here, I can see the supplier's name. I can see the requirement that this is going to be pertaining to. And then from here, you can select the new status if you want green or amber or red. This is going to apply to this client site, and this is our site, US Sites. The only required fields inside of a variance request are really the end date, because you have to put in when this variance is going to end. So for instance, if you have a job coming up on the 23rd and it ends on the 25th, you're probably going to push it out till the 26th, right? So you can make this end date as short or as long as you want this. Alternatively, you can push it out to 2025 if you wanted to. There's no cap on the end date. The reason for the variance, this is where you want to get as detailed as possible, okay? So enter in all required information as to why this variance should be pushed through. And the uploaded files, this is where you can upload any documentation that support the variance, okay? Scrolling back up, you have an option here, add reviewers to this variance. Now, for some companies, this is a required field, okay? So depending on your permission, for me, I have approval permission, but if you don't have approval permission, you're going to have to add a reviewer to the variance. Clicking on add reviewers to this variance gives you the option of doing a unanimous vote, meaning all reviewers will have to approve in order for it to be pushed through, or the majority vote, meaning if you have 6 reviewers, then 4 of them will need to approve in order for it to push through. Anyone with the approval permission will show up here in the add a reviewer drop down. Okay, for the training environment as it's built out right now, I don't have any reviewers, but I do have the ability to approve this myself. So I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. Now, when you click on add reviewers to this variance, you also have an additional field down here called request documents. And what this does is it allows for you to request documentation from the supplier to maybe provide file for variance approval, right? So maybe you're going to be requesting documentation that supports this variance request. And once the supplier responds with this documentation, then the reviewer will receive an email saying, hey, go in and approve or reject this variance request. I'm going to toggle off add reviewers to this variance. Once I click on save, what this does, because I did not ask for a reviewer, I have the permission to push this through on my own because I have approval permission. This is then going to automatically change that compliance status, and the screen isn't frozen, it's just it's thinking right now. So let's just give it a minute. Ta-da! Okay, so now you can see that because I did not request a reviewer and I pushed this through myself, this actually is now automatic status for a forced variance of compliance. And to the right, it says forced green until this date by me. Okay, so we're going to switch gears and look at the compliance submenu. Now, the compliance submenu is, I feel, the second most important submenu within the profile. So within the compliance submenu, you can filter by the type of form that you're looking for. If you're only looking for the audits, you can click on audit. If you're only looking for insurance, you can click on insurance, whatever the case may be. You can also sort by the date or the name. And if you know the specific task that you're looking for, you can search by that task name here. Now, when we're looking at the compliance submenu, this is similar to what the supplier will see when they click in their compliance menu. Only they only have 2 buckets, not completed and completed. It gives them a list of all of the tasks that they need to complete or that they've already completed. For you as the client, you have 3 buckets that you're viewing. Number 1 is awaiting supplier submission. Number 2 is awaiting a beta verification. And the 3rd is completed. So anything under awaiting supplier submission are going to be the tasks that are still on the supplier's plate and we're waiting for them to complete. Once they have submitted that task, it then 99.9% of the times falls to Aveta's plate for the Aveta representative to go in and review and either approve. If it approves, it falls to completed, or let's say that the Aveta rep is reviewing and something is missing or something has fell out of compliance or it's not in the parameters of compliance. The Aveta representative will enter detailed notifications within that task and they'll reject it. It'll go back to the supplier's plate, but now the supplier knows exactly what they need to do and where they need to go to correct this task and resubmit it. Okay. Now, no matter where the task falls, whether it's on the supplier's plate, Aveta's, or completed already, you have the ability to go in and view any of these tasks here. On the right-hand side of the compliance menu, you also have statistics. And statistics, depending on the region of the world that you're in, will give you those statistics such as US DART, EMR, fatalities, hours worked, LWCR, and TRIR in this beautiful graph format. Now, you can hover to discover, meaning I can hover my mouse over the year and it's going to give me the information for that time frame. But let's say that you're not a graphically inclined person. That's totally fine. Come up here and click on this little icon to the right. This gives you the same information in table format. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just go over what each of these do. I'm not going to go into them very deeply. Archive is where you can find all of the expired tasks. Every single task in the compliance submenu will give you, every task has an expiration date. Once the date is met, it falls to archive. Files is where you can see all of the files that this supplier has uploaded. Notes is where you can find all of the internal notes, meaning that only your company and Avetta are able to see those notes. So reviews is where you can go to do those performance evaluations, very straightforward. And history, I want to call this out. So history is where you can go to get all of the action items within this supplier's profile. So if something was submitted, approved, resubmitted, rejected, or completed, anything at all that happens within that supplier's profile, you can see that here. And majority of these line items are just informational purposes. It says what it is and when it was done and the status. But if in the status column you ever see a green sent, this means that this was a communication that was sent to the supplier from within Avetta Connect. And I can simply click on this. This is the only clickable item. I can click on the communication and see what was sent to the supplier and who it was sent to on the left-hand side. All right. The About tab, I just want to quickly call this out. If you have an internal ID that you use, like an ERP, you can add that to the supplier's account by clicking on Add External ID and selecting which one it is that you guys use. This is also the primary location where you can apply a supplier tag. All right, I'm going to come out to the network, and we're just going to go through each of these network menus up here in the top. Number one is Find Suppliers. Okay, there's a few different ways that you can search Find Suppliers. Now remember, this is where you can go to view all of the Avetta pre-approved suppliers. So they're already a part of Avetta's network, but you may or may not be connected to them yet. To search the Find Suppliers, you can either enter the name of the supplier, you can search by the trade, or you can enter the geographical location. The map view, it really operates just like Google Maps. You can zoom in or out, or you can just enter a map view here. There's different elements on the screen here. The red indicates that there's one supplier in that area. The blue indicates there's more than one but less than 10. And the yellow indicates there's more than 10 but less than 100. Now, whatever is shown on the map view is going to be mirrored on the list view to the right. If you want to get any more information about any one of these suppliers, all you have to do is click once on the name, and you'll get that at-a-glance view of their profile here on the right. If you have the permission to do so, you can click to connect. But let's say you've sourced a supplier who's not yet a part of Avetta's network, but you want to have them become a part of Avetta's network. Click on Supplier Request. So Supplier Request is where you go to initiate that registration request. You'll enter all of the supplier information into these required fields. It's going to populate this form on the right. Once the required fields have been completed, it'll activate the green Send button. And once you click on Send, it's going to go two places. Number one, the supplier, of course, and number two is the Avetta registration team, so we can do any potential follow-up. Supplier Tags is next. So Supplier Tags, again, this is where you create and manage those tags. To create a new tag, it's very straightforward. You just click on Create New Tag. You enter in the tag name. I'm going to say low risk, and you have a couple of options here. Viewable by supplier. This means if you apply this tag to a supplier's profile, they will be able to see it. Do we want them to see that they're low risk? Maybe not. So I'm going to toggle this selection off. Come on. is inheritable. This means that when you apply the supplier tag, any kind of aggregate sites or microsites that the supplier might have, those will also inherit this tag. And then once you click on add, you can now apply this to any of the supplier's accounts. Supplier variance is the last one, and this again is where you go to view all of the supplier variance requests, meaning that a reviewer was assigned to this variance request. And this is where you can view once they approve, it'll give a little thumbs up here. There's not much that you can modify once you've created a request. The only thing you would be able to modify really is the reviewers. If anything else like the compliance status or the information inside needs to change, you'll have to close the request or delete it and then create a new one. Remember to create a variance that happens within the supplier profile itself. Okay. Up here in the profile, let me just quickly go over this. Clicking on the profile up here in the top right, I'm going to click on my profile. Okay, and from here we have the company profile. I'm going to click on user management. Clicking on user management, you see your profile here on the right hand side, and this is where you can go to not only update your information but also subscribe to email notifications. So clicking on subscriptions here, I can now subscribe to any one of these email notifications. It'll go to my inbox, and here is where you can also, for some of these, indicate if you want to be notified when all of your suppliers' insurance are about to expire or only those that are on your watch list. So here's where the watch list comes in handy yet again. You are the only person who can subscribe to email notifications. Not even an Avetta representative can subscribe for you. All right, now to top it off, I want to just call out this support button here on the left hand side. Clicking on support, you now have this white box that shows up here on the right. If you type in your question here, it's only going to search for these walk me overviews. All right, and so clicking on any of these walk me's, they're very helpful. If I forgot how to find suppliers, I can click find supplier overview, and this is literally going to walk me through the system. Okay, but the biggest bang for your buck is to click on support and then click on the help center. Clicking on the help center will then take you to our help center at help.avetta.com. I suggest that everyone copy this link, put it in your URL, and bookmark it and come back to this at a time that's later than now. You'll click on I'm a client user. There's a bunch of helpful information in here, especially this dynamic search field. You can type in anything and search our entire knowledge base. Also, there's different tiles for task or product specific information, but I want to draw your attention up here to the training menu. Clicking on training, as a client user, you have access to both client and supplier training documents and videos. So depending on your learning method, preferred learning method, you can print out a quick reference guide or watch a quick, well-produced, less than 3-minute video. Well, I really appreciate your time and attendance today, everybody. Have a great day.